I'm 73 years old. I can say that now without hesitation, though for years I avoided it. Not out of vanity, just discomfort. But there's something I need to tell you, and my age matters because of how long it took me to understand it. 52 years, that's how long I carried a belief that shaped every decision I made, every relationship I maintained, every moment I let slip by. And even now, sitting here with all this time behind me, admitting what I missed still tightens something in my chest. This isn't about success or failure. I had what most people would call a good life. I did the things you're supposed to do. I showed up. I was reliable. But somewhere in all those years of doing what seemed right, I lost track of something I can't get back. And the weight of that doesn't fade. It just becomes part of you. I spent 40 years working in civil engineering, mostly municipal projects, water treatment facilities, road infrastructure, things that keep a city functioning without anyone noticing. I was good at it, thorough. People knew they could depend on me to see things through, to catch the details others missed. I had a wife, 2 daughters, a house I paid off in my 50s, every year a modest vacation, usually somewhere we could drive to. We weren't wealthy, but we were stable, comfortable. I thought that mattered. When people asked how I was doing, I always said fine, and I meant it. There was no crisis, no collapse, just a steady accumulation of days that looked from the outside like a life well managed. I went to work. I came home. I mowed the lawn on Saturdays. I attended the occasional neighborhood barbecue, smiled at the right moments, and contributed to conversations about property taxes and weather patterns. I was there, present in body, checking the boxes, but I lived like someone who believed the important parts could wait. I told myself I'd have more time with my daughters once things settled down at work. I'd plan that trip with my wife once the next project is wrapped up. I'd call my brother more often once life got less busy. I didn't realize I was always waiting for a version of my life that was never going to arrive. From the outside, I'm sure it looked fine, respectable even, and for a long time I believed that too. I thought a life measured by responsibility and consistency was enough, that showing up and doing your job and paying your bills and not causing trouble meant you were doing it right. But something was missing. I didn't know what, I just felt it sometimes. A quiet discomfort I couldn't name, like standing in a room and sensing you've forgotten something but not knowing what it is. It happened on a Thursday. I remember because Thursdays were always my longest days. Early site meeting, full afternoon of reviews, late drive home. I was 62, still 3 years from retirement, still operating under the assumption that I had time. I was in the office, alone. Most people had left. I was finishing a report that didn't need to be finished that night, but I'd always been the type to clear my desk before leaving. And then my left arm went numb. Not painful, just absent, like it had stopped belonging to me. I stared at it, confused, trying to will sensation back into it. My chest felt tight, but not in the way I'd imagined a heart attack would feel. No sharp pain, just pressure, like someone was sitting on my rib cage. I stood up. The room tilted slightly. I gripped the edge of my desk and waited for it to pass. It didn't pass. I drove myself to the emergency room. I don't know why. I should have called someone, but I think part of me refused to believe anything serious was happening. I kept thinking it would resolve itself before I got there, that I'd feel foolish for overreacting. They kept me overnight, ran tests. The cardiologist was a woman in her 40s, with a calm, measured way of speaking. She explained that I had had a minor cardiac event, not a full heart attack, but close. A warning, she used that word specifically. Warning, I nodded, asked the appropriate questions, thanked her for her time, but what I remember most is lying in that hospital bed at 3 a.m, listening to machines beep in distant rooms, and realizing that my body had just decided without consulting me. It had simply announced in the most undeniable way possible that I was not in control. That time was not a resource I managed. It was something happening to me, with or without my consent. I went home 2 days later. Everyone called, my daughters, my wife's sister, a few people from work. They asked how I was feeling. said they were glad I was okay and told me to take it easy. I said all the right things, thanked them, reassured them, promised I'd follow the doctor's orders. But after they hung up, after my wife went to bed, I sat in the living room with the lights off and felt more alone than I had in years. The house was quiet. Outside, I could hear the faint hum of the highway a mile away, a sound I'd stopped noticing decades ago. I kept running my hand over the armrest of the chair, feeling the worn fabric, thinking about how many times I'd sat in that exact spot without ever really noticing it. Memories started surfacing. Not the big ones, the small ones. My younger daughter, Sarah, at 9 years old, asked me to help her build a birdhouse for a school project. I'd said yes, but then got pulled into something at work and forgot. She built it with a neighbor instead. I never apologized. It didn't seem like the kind of thing that needed an apology. It was just a school project. But now, sitting in the dark, I remembered the look on her face. When I came home that night and saw the birdhouse on the kitchen table, she showed it to me, proud, and I said something like, "Oh, you finished it?" And she just nodded. She hadn't asked me for help after that, not with projects, not with much of anything. I thought about my brother Mark. We'd been close as kids, but life pulled us in different directions. He lived 6 hours away. We talked maybe twice a year, always said we should visit more. Never did. He'd called me a few years earlier, mentioned he'd been feeling tired, struggling with something he couldn't quite name. I'd told him to see a doctor, then moved on to talking about my own work stress. The conversation ended, and I didn't call back. I didn't know then that he was depressed, that he needed someone to notice. He recovered eventually, but it took him a long time, and I wasn't there for any of it. I kept telling myself these were small things, normal regrets everyone has. But in that dark living room, they didn't feel small. They felt like a pattern, a lifetime of choosing later over now. And the grief I felt wasn't about the heart scare. It was about everything that had quietly disappeared while I wasn't paying attention. For weeks after, I kept replaying this idea in my head. I thought I had time, not consciously. I never sat down and told myself, I'll get to that later. It was just assumed, built into the way I moved through the world, an invisible rule I never questioned because everyone around me seemed to live by it too. There would always be another weekend, another year, another opportunity to be present, to connect, to say the things that mattered. Seemed so reasonable. Healthy. I was working. I had plans. Why wouldn't there be more time? But time is the easiest thing to miscount. You don't see it leaving. There's no meter, no warning light. It just goes day by day until sudden. You're sitting in a dark room at 62, realizing that half the people you meant to know better are now strangers, that the moments you planned to return to are just gone. I don't blame anyone. I don't even blame myself, really. It's just what happens when you live like there's always tomorrow. The lie wasn't that I'd have a long life. I did. The lie was that length meant opportunity. That time was a resource I could spend later. But time doesn't wait in a savings account. You can't withdraw it when you're ready. It's moving whether you use it or not. And the version of me that thought he'd have endless chances to be a better father, a closer brother, a more present husband, that version was wrong. Not because I died young, but because presence doesn't accumulate. It happens now or it doesn't happen. I started thinking about the moments I'd rushed through, Sunday mornings when my daughters were young. My wife would make pancakes, and they'd sit at the table, talking about whatever kids talk about, friends, school, something they'd seen on TV. I'd be there, but I'd also be thinking about work, about the meeting on Monday, about the site inspection I hadn't finished documenting. I'd nod, smile, but I wasn't really there. I thought those mornings would repeat forever, that there'd always be another Sunday, and there were for a while. But then my daughters grew up, they moved out, they built their own lives, and the Sunday mornings ended without ceremony. I can't remember the last one. There was no announcement, no final pancake breakfast where we all acknowledged it was ending. It just stopped. And I didn't notice until years later, There was a night when my older daughter Emma was 16. She came home upset about something, a friend who'd turned on her, I think. She was crying, not loudly, just that quiet kind of crying that hurts to watch. My wife asked Dee if she wanted to talk. Emma shook her head, went to her room. I stood in the hallway thinking I should go in, say something, but I didn't know what to say. I wasn't good at that kind of thing, so I told myself I'd talk to her in the morning, when she'd calmed down, when I'd figured out the right words. But in the morning she was fine, or at least she said she was, and I let myself believe it because it was easier than reopening something painful. I never asked her about that night, and she never brought it up again. I think about that now, about how many moments I let pass because I convinced myself there'd be a better time, a time when I'd know the right thing to say, a time when I wouldn't feel so unsure. But that time never came, and the moment itself just dissolved. There was a trip my wife wanted to take. She'd mentioned it for years, a week in the mountains, somewhere quiet, away from routine, just the two of us. I always said yes, we should do that. But then work would pick up, or we'd need to save for something else, or it just didn't seem like the right time. Eventually she stopped asking. We didn't fight about it. We didn't resent each other. It just became another thing we talked about but never done. Another small distance opened up between us, so gradually we didn't notice. These moments don't feel significant when they're happening. A missed conversation, a postponed trip, a Sunday morning where you're physically present but mentally elsewhere, but they add up. They accumulate into a life that looks full but feels hollow, into relationships that exist but don't sustain, into a version of closeness that's more about proximity than presence. And the thing that stings most is that I didn't lose these moments to tragedy or crisis. I lost them to ordinary distraction, to believe that what I was doing in that moment mattered more than who I was with. She was wrong. It took me a long time to realize that what I thought mattered didn't, at least not in the way I expected. For most of my life, I measured success by output. Projects completed, bills paid, stability maintained. I thought those things would give my life weight, permanence. But when I look back now, the projects have faded. I can barely remember most of them. The roads I helped design are still there, I suppose, but I drive past them without feeling anything. They're just roads. What stayed with me are the people, the moments I was actually present for, and there are far fewer of those than I'd like. My father died when I was 58. He'd been declining for a few years, memory issues, physical weakness. Toward the end, he didn't always recognize me, but there were moments when he did, when his eyes would clear and he'd say my name. I visited him every few weeks, sat with him, tried to make conversation, but mostly I just felt helpless, sad, guilty for not visiting more often when he was still himself. After he died, I kept thinking about the years before, the years when he was healthy, when I could have called more, visited more, asked him about his life instead of just updating him on mine. I'd assumed we'd have more time, that there'd be a phase of our relationship where things would deepen, where we'd move past surface-level check-ins and actually know each other. But that phase never came, because I never created it. I waited for it to happen naturally, and then he was gone. That loss changed something in me. Not all at once, but slowly over months and years, I started noticing what felt heavy and what didn't. The work stress I'd carried for decades, it didn't matter. The approval I'd sought from colleagues, it evaporated. The status I'd quietly built, it meant nothing. What lingered were the people I'd loved but not known well enough, the time I'd spent beside them without truly being with them. I don't know when a good life became something different in my mind. It wasn't a single moment, just a slow recalibration, a quiet shift in what I valued. I stopped caring about whether I'd achieved enough. I started caring about whether I'd been present, whether the people I loved knew it. And I realized, too late for some of them, that they didn't, because I'd never told them, because I'd lived like we'd have infinite opportunities to close the distance, because I'd mistaken time for connection. Let me ask you something, not rhetorically. I mean it. When was the last time you had an unhurried conversation with someone you love? Not a check-in, not a logistical exchange. A real conversation, the kind where you're not thinking about what's next. When was the last time you sat with someone and let the silence be okay? When you weren't filling the space with distraction or performance or the need to seem productive? I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty. I'm asking because I spent most of my life not asking myself these questions. And by the time I did, a lot of the answers had already been decided for me. You probably have someone in your life you keep meaning to call, someone you think about occasionally, feel a small pang of guilt about, and then move on because there's always something more immediate demanding your attention. I had people like that. Some of them are gone now. And what I'd give to sit with them one more time without an agenda, without rushing, is more than I can articulate. You think you'll get to it. You think there's time. Maybe there is, but maybe there isn't. And the quiet tragedy isn't that you'll lose people. It's that you'll lose them before they're gone, that you'll spend years beside them without ever really seeing them, that you'll wake up one day and realize the distance between you, grew so slowly you didn't notice until it became permanent. I don't know where you are in your life, what you're prioritizing, what you're postponing, but I'm telling you this because I wish someone had told me, not with urgency, not trying to scare me, just honestly, the moments you think are ordinary, they're not. They're all you have, and they're disappearing while you're making plans. People ask me what I regret. It's not what they expect. I don't regret career choices. I don't regret playing it safe or not taking bigger risks. I don't regret the mistakes I made, the arguments I lost, the times I looked foolish. Those things don't touch me anymore. They felt enormous at the time, but they've faded into background noise. What I regret are the omissions, the things I didn't do, the conversations I didn't have, the presents I didn't offer. I regret not asking my father about his childhood, about what it was like for him growing up during the Depression. He mentioned it occasionally, but I never pressed. I assumed I'd ask later. Now I can't. I regret not taking that trip with my wife when she wanted to. Not because the trip itself would have been life-changing, but because she would have felt chosen. She would have known, without me having to say it, that I valued her more than whatever else I was prioritizing. I regret not sitting on the floor with my daughters when they were little and letting them tell me their long, winding, nonsensical stories without checking the clock. They don't remember those moments, probably, but I do. And I remember how often I cut them short because I had something else to do. None of these feels like a big regret. They're not dramatic. They're not the kind of thing you see in movies, but they're what stayed with me. They're what I carry. And the strange thing is, the things I thought would haunt me, mistakes, failures, bad decisions, they don't. Because mistakes are active. They're part of living. You make them, you learn, you move on. But the things you don't do, they just sit there, unresolved, unfinished, a quiet accumulation of absences that you can't repair. What I don't regret is the time I did spend, the moments I was actually present. There aren't as many as I'd like, but they're bright in my memory, clear. I remember a morning when Emma was 7. We'd gone for a walk, just the two of us. She'd found a rock she thought looked like a turtle and spent 20 minutes telling me about it. I didn't rush her, I just listened. And when I think about my time as a father, that's one of the moments I return to. I remember a night with my wife, years ago, sitting on the porch after the kids were asleep. We didn't talk much, just sat there listening to the crickets. I wasn't thinking about anything else. I was just there. Those moments, rare as they were, don't hurt. They're what made everything worth it. I wish there were more of them, but I'm grateful they exist at all. Time doesn't announce itself. There's no notification, no alarm, no moment where it taps you on the shoulder and says, "This is your last chance." It just keeps moving. And one day you look up and realize how much of it is gone. I'm 73 now. My wife is 71. We're both still here, still healthy enough. But we're aware, in a way we weren't before, that this is the narrow part of life, the part where options close quietly, friends disappear. Not all at once, but gradually. Someone moves, someone gets sick, someone just drifts. And you mean to reconnect, but life gets in the way. And then years pass and it feels too awkward to reach out, so you don't. Our daughters visit, but less often. They have their own lives now, their own responsibilities. We don't begrudge them that. But there's a thinness to the connection that I feel more acutely now. A sense that we're no longer at the center of their worlds, which is how it should be. But it's still a loss. I think about the people I meant to know better and didn't. The trips I meant to take, the conversations I meant to have. And the hardest part is accepting that some of those doors have closed, that I can't go back, that no amount of regret will give me another chance. Age isn't decline exactly. It's narrowing. It's the slow recognition that time isn't infinite, that energy isn't endless, that the life you meant to live someday is either happening now or it's not happening. I don't say this to be morbid, just honest, because I lived most of my life as if time were on my side, as if it would wait. And it didn't. I'm not angry about it, just aware, more aware than I've ever been. And that awareness, it's both a gift and a weight. Because now I see clearly what I missed. And I can't fix it. I can only carry it. So where am I now at 73? No, I'm not at peace. Not entirely. I don't think peace is really the point. But I'm not running anymore either. Still here. Still with my wife. Still in contact with my daughters. Though the closeness I wish we had built decades ago isn't something I can manufacture now. What I've found is something quieter than peace. It's acceptance, I suppose. Acceptance that I didn't do everything right, that I missed things, that I hurt people not through cruelty but through absence, that I spent years beside the people I loved without fully seeing them. But I'm also grateful, deeply grateful for what I do have. For the mornings I wake up beside my wife and feel the weight of her presence. For the phone calls with my daughters, even if they're brief. For the moments when I'm not thinking about the past or the future, just living in what's here. There's a tenderness to life now that I didn't feel before. A softness. I notice small things. The light through the kitchen window in the morning, the sound of rain, the way my wife hums to herself when she's cooking. These aren't grand moments, but they're real, and they're mine, and I don't take them for granted anymore. I think about the life I lived, the years I spent moving from task to task, project to project, always focused on what was next. And I feel sadness for that version of me, for how much he missed, for how much he postponed, but I also feel something close to compassion, because he didn't know. He thought he was doing the right thing. He thought building a stable life, being dependable, fulfilling responsibilities, he thought that was enough. And it wasn't anything, it just wasn't everything. What I wish I'd understood sooner is that presence is a practice. It doesn't happen automatically. You have to choose it again and again. You have to put down whatever you're holding and be where you are. I didn't do that enough. And I can't go back, but I can be here now, with what's left, with who's left. And that's what I'm trying to do, not perfectly, not without slipping back into old patterns, but more than before, because even now, even at 73, time is still leaving, and I'm still here, and I'd rather be present for what remains than spend it mourning what I missed. I'll leave you with this thought, not advice. I don't think I've earned the right to tell you what to do, just something I think about. You're going to get older, whether you want to or not. Time is going to pass. People are going to leave your life one way or another. Opportunities are going to close. That's not a threat. It's just how it works. But you're also here right now, with whoever you're with, or not with. And that's still something you can choose. You can't control how much time you have, but you can control what you do with it. I spent 52 years believing otherwise. Believing that time was something I managed, something I could spend later when I was ready, and I was wrong. I don't know what you're postponing. What relationship are you leaving untended? What conversation you keep meaning to have? What moment are you rushing through because something else feels more important? But I know what it feels like to realize, too late, that the thing you were saving for later is gone. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone, So maybe just notice. Notice where you are. Who are you with? What's here right now? Not because there's some perfect way to live. Not because you need to fix everything today. Just because this moment is the only one that's real. And it's the only one you actually have. I wish I'd understood that sooner, but I understand it now. And maybe that's enough.